Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on the yogic life. So before we read our Karapatra, I want to talk a little bit of essentially there are like three paths to moksha: the Jnana Marga, Karma Marga and the Bhakti Marga. So what we are actually saying is that devoid of this bhakti or prema, then karma, jnana, tapaha, all that everything becomes useless. So like for instance, the person who is a karma yogi, right? So he is engrossed in doing the karma because he thinks that doing the karma will get him moksha. But what happens is that he is not able to attain the moksha because all his karmas will fail because there is no bhakti. Without bhakti, the karma marga will not take you to the end, right? So karma marga is glorified only when it is associated with bhakti marga. That is, when you have that love for Parama Purusha. Otherwise, the karma becomes very, very mechanical, right? So what happens when you are a karma margi? Your whole existence becomes like a machine, and you're continuously engaged in doing the karma, but your heart is devoid of any bhakti, right? Such a karma yogi cannot achieve the supreme goal, right? Just because of his karma, right? When karma is not associated with bhakti or love for the supreme, then there is no further progress. Such a kind of life is actually useless. There is no use of just doing the karma without having that bhava for that Parama Purusha. Similarly, tapaha means you're undergoing hardship, right? You're taking you're doing some service to the other person, and in that process you're undergoing hardship. Like for instance, you go to the hospital and serve the patients, then that means you're undergoing physical and mental hardship, right? Like for instance, you're cooking food for, let's say, 50 people. That means you're undergoing physical hardship for somebody else, right? That is tapaha. So tapaha is very good, right? Tapaha is in the niyama, we'll see that tapaha is one of the requirements, that you have to have tapaha, right? Tapaha is actually good thing, but only doing tapaha without having bhakti bhava for Parama Purusha will not get anything, right? It is actually just a waste of misuse of time. Tapaha without prema is misuse of time, and in fact it will have an adverse effect on the body, a physical body and also the mental body, and the end result will not be good, right? For instance, some people, they stand in the river on one leg, or all kinds of different things they do, but that is actually not tapasya. That is not tapaha. Tapaha is where you're serving somebody else, where you're serving the children of Parama Purusha. That is what is tapaha. You just undergoing physical hardship without serving anybody, that is not tapaha. Even that tapaha, when you serve others, also becomes a useless endeavor when you're just doing it without having any little bit of prema is not there in your heart. Even little bit of prema is not there in your heart, love is not there in your heart for Parama Purusha, you don't have the bhakti for Parama Purusha, then even such a kind of tapaha is useless. And now looking at a dry yogi who is only interested in suspending all his vrittis, suspending all his propensities, his mental propensities. So that such a person is called as a dry yogi. What he does is he's always engaged in suspending his vrittis, right? Because he thinks that suspending all the vrittis will help. That is what is yoga. That's what he thinks, right? So if you're suspending your vrittis and you don't have an adhara, right? The adhara is Parama Purusha. You don't have that bhakti. You don't accept Parama Purusha, and you're just suspending all your vrittis. Then that such a person is a dry yogi, because he doesn't have a proper adhara. It doesn't lead anywhere, right? In fact, it gives downfall. So, but on the other hand, the person who suspended his vritti and has a deep love for Parama Purusha, then all those suspended vrittis rest on the supreme entity for whom this person has love, right? Then such a person will have agragatihi. But if you don't have love for Paramapurusha, but you've suspended all your vrittis, then what happens is, because there is no adhara, there is no Paramapurusha is not the adhara, then all the suspended vrittis are converted into crude matter, right? So then what happens is that he becomes instead of becoming a subtle human being, right, he becomes a crude person, and that essentially leads to his mind becomes very crude, because there is no adhara, there is no love for Paramapurusha. So then actually that leads to deterioration. Such a type of a dry yogi who doesn't have prema or bhakti bhava for Paramapurusha is actually, in fact, he is on the wrong path, and such a path leads to deterioration. It leads to the it is actually, in fact, dangerous for the human elevation, right? Such a person is called as a dry yogi, right? He just engaged in yoga all day long. He's doing different kinds of asanas, he's doing different kinds of things, and then he's trying to suspend his vrittis, but there is no adhara, there is no Ishvara prema, right? Ishvara prema is not there. When Ishvara prema is not there, then everything becomes useless, right? So, and in today's world, if you look, right, we are seeing that materialism has converted human beings into animals, right? So like, for instance, if you're looking at a jada jnani who is wanting to get more and more and more and more knowledge, whether it be in the area of worldly knowledge, laukika jnanam, or it can be in the so-called shastras. Also, he is trying to get more and more and more and more knowledge, but there is no prema in his heart. He is not applying anything that he has learnt, right? He is saying, oh, I need to have shraddha, I need to have damaha, I need to have shamaha, and all that he is only saying, but he is not applying in his life, right? So such a person is a jada jnani. His heart is very dry, right? The more and more and more the jnana he gets, only his ahankara grows, right? He is wanting to defeat the other person. He wants to show that his knowledge is superior. So such a person, he will not be able to taste the rasa of Paramapurusha. He will get no taste from such a activity, right? It's a he's a dry jnani, he's a jada jnani, right? So whether the knowledge is about the worldly things or it is about the supreme, right? Even then, without applying it in his life, right, he's just reading and reading. He's just pustakiya jnanam, he's just reading from the book, right? That is nothing but crude materialism, right? This type of knowledge only makes the mind more and more crude. That is what has happened in the last several years, right? The last 1 century. This is what has happened, where people think that getting knowledge is actually equivalent to getting moksha. If I read aham brahmasmi from a book, right, you keep reading aham brahmasmi 1,000 times from a book, that doesn't mean you become realized soul. It doesn't mean that you have attained Brahma, right? So that is a misguided approach. This is a misguided thought that the human society thinks that if I just read books, I can attain Brahma. It is not like that. So by reading more and more and more, you start getting more and more ahankara. Then what happens is that when your mind is not getting elevated by the activity that you're doing, it is getting degraded, then you become worse than animals, and such people can get exploited easily by other people, right? So what does a bhakta do, right? So if there is a mango tree, right, if there is a mango tree and the mango tree has a lot of mangoes, what a bhakta will do, has a deep love for Paramapurusha, he will just go look at the mangoes and he will think that these mangoes are the mangoes that Paramapurusha has given me. He will take and eat them. But on the other hand, what a jnani will do is he will go to the mango tree and he'll start counting how many mangoes are there, what is the color of the mango, and why is this tree different from some other tree, why are the mangoes in this tree different from some other tree. So he'll do all sorts of analysis. He will do lots of thinking, and he will only be thinking about what should I do, shall I eat this mango or not, which of these mangoes, which one will be sweet. He will do all sorts of analysis. His heart doesn't have little bit of bhakti. He doesn't think that these mangoes are given to me by Paramapurusha. He doesn't have even a wee bit of prema for Paramapurusha. Then what happens for such a person? he just wastes his entire life just doing analysis without getting the taste of Paramapurusha, without getting the taste of the rasa. So your heart should be full of rasa, right? Because Paramapurusha is rasovaisaha, right? Rasovaisaha. Paramapurusha is rasa. So if your heart doesn't have bhakti bhava, if you don't have that rasa, then Paramapurusha will never be attracted to such a person. Where a person is engrossed in doing bhakti of Paramapurusha, right, there Paramapurusha Hari is very much attracted to such a person. Where there is bhakti bhava, there Paramapurusha is there. Where your heart is dry, only jnana, no bhakti, then your actually mind gets more crude, it's getting deteriorated, right? So we actually talked about there are actually three kinds of bhakti bhava, right? The tamasiki bhakti, rajasiki bhakti and satviki bhakti. So we said that tamasiki bhakti is actually really not a bhakti, because what is the inner desire of such a bhakta is that my enemy should die. That is what is, he acknowledges Paramapurusha and his only requirement is that my enemy should die, right? So Paramapurusha is definitely not the goal of such a bhakti, right? And he is not going to get Paramapurusha. A tamasika bhakta, he is not going to get Paramapurusha because Paramapurusha was never his goal. His goal was to defeat his enemies. So such a person will not get Paramapurusha. That is actually really not a bhakti at all. And then rajasiki bhakti, what is the rajasiki bhakti? Rajasiki bhakti is that he acknowledges that Paramapurusha is there, but he is wanting physical prosperity. He is wanting more wealth. He is asking Paramapurusha, oh Paramapurusha, give me more wealth. He is asking, oh, my children should get a job, or oh, I want to buy a house, or whatever it may be, right? They are asking all laukika things, right? So what happens is that as a result of such a so-called bhakti, one may or may not get physical prosperity, but definitely they will not get Paramapurusha, because Paramapurusha was not the goal of such a bhakti. This is not Shuddha bhakti or a pure bhakti, right? A Shuddha bhakti. And then we look at the Satviki bhakti. Satviki bhakti is such a kind of a bhakti where such a person acknowledges Paramapurusha. He is wanting Paramapurusha. Why is he wanting Paramapurusha? Because he doesn't have the physical strength to enjoy the world, right? Because his hands and legs have become weak and he's not able to enjoy the world, and therefore he gets very much frustrated with the world, and therefore he wants Paramapurusha. He's saying, oh Paramapurusha, I want to attain you because I cannot enjoy this world, right? Such a bhakti is Satviki bhakti. This is also really not a bhakti at all, right? Because ultimately his goal is not to attain Paramapurusha. His goal is to attain Paramapurusha just because he can't attain the world. That is why it is, because he has an inner motive. Like for instance, if his hands and legs were all proper and he's able to enjoy the world, then he doesn't want Paramapurusha. So that is really not a bhakti. So what is actually ultimately a bhakti? What is the true bhakti? Shuddha bhakti, pure bhakti, right? What is pure bhakti is asking only for Paramapurusha, not expecting anything in return. You're not asking for anything. You're not even asking for Ananda, right? So even in the Shuddha bhakti, there are two categories. Raganuga bhakti and Ragatmika bhakti. Raganuga bhakti is a person who acknowledges Paramapurusha. He wants to attain Paramapurusha, but why he wants to attain Paramapurusha? Because by attaining Paramapurusha he is getting Ananda, right? By reaching closer to Paramapurusha he is getting bliss. Therefore he wants to attain Paramapurusha. Ragatmika bhakti is a Shuddha bhakti, pure bhakti, where the sadhaka doesn't want anything. He doesn't want anything. He only wants to please Paramapurusha. He doesn't want anything in return. Such a kind of bhakti is a pure bhakti. Such a sadhaka who has reached that state will definitely attain Paramapurusha. There is no doubt about it, because his goal is Paramapurusha. Because his idea, what is his idea in his mind, is that everything in this universe is happening according to his wish. It is his grace, and I'm just a tool. I'm just a tool in his hands, and whatever is Paramapurusha's desire, that is my desire. I don't have an individual existence. I don't have any other hidden desires. Like when you have hidden desires, right, then you cannot attain Paramapurusha. Only when your goal of life is only Paramapurusha, then that is when you attain Paramapurusha. If you have other hidden desires, like when you have not surrendered to Paramapurusha, you say, oh Paramapurusha, I want to attain you, okay, but also I want to get this, I want to get that. When you have that hidden desire, then you cannot attain Parama Purusha. So what happens is that you need to have complete surrender. You should not have any other desire. You should have that complete Shuddha Bhakti. When you have the Shuddha Bhakti, that is when he will take care of us. See, the thing is, right, people are afraid. People are thinking that, because even though they are trusting Parama Purusha, but in the corner of the mind, they want to trust themselves also, right? So like, for instance, if you have money in the bank, right, you're constantly monitoring that money in the bank, or saying, oh, is it safe, is it safe, is it safe, because you think, oh yeah, Parama Purusha will make it safe. You think in your corner of your mind, but also in spite of that, you want to keep looking and you want to say, oh, is it safe, is it safe, is it safe. You're doing that because you don't trust Parama Purusha. So I'm just giving a crude example of money, but even in any other area where you have complete, like for instance, you're worried whether you're going to get the next meal or not. Let's say you don't have money, you're worried whether I'm going to get next meal or not. But a person who is a sadhaka, he will not be worried about anything. He will not be worried about anything because he trusts Parama Purusha completely. He has 100% faith in Parama Purusha. So he thinks that whatever I need for my existence, he will take care. Why should I worry? Right? He will take care. He has taken care of me so all these days. He will take care of me even in the future. Why should I worry? There is no need to worry. Right? There is absolutely nothing to worry at all. Right? When you have that 100% faith in that supreme entity, then what happens is that supreme entity is actually, he runs to you because you have that deep love and affection. So that a supreme entity cannot be separate from you. Where the supreme entity, there cannot be any problems. When the supreme entity is with you, there cannot be any problems in this world. So that is the kind of bhakti we should all try to develop. We should elevate ourselves from the so-called bhakti, the tamasiki bhakti, rajasiki bhakti, satviki bhakti, and we should elevate to the Shuddha Bhakti, right? We have to reach to the Raganuga Bhakti and finally to the Ragatmika Bhakti. That is the Bhakti that we all want to develop, right? If we want to develop something in this life, what is it that we should develop? Is this Bhakti Bhava. Is this Bhakti Bhava, the Shuddha Bhakti is what we need to develop. When we attain this Shuddha Bhakti as a sadhaka, then there is nothing else to attain. If you have attained this Ragatmika Bhakti for Parama Purusha, then there is nothing else to attain. After that, you don't need to worry about whether I got moksha, whether I didn't get moksha, nothing. That's it. If you have that 100% faith in Parama Purusha, then automatically Parama Purusha, it is guaranteed. Parama Purusha, automatically you have attained Parama Purusha. So we need to make efforts to elevate ourselves to that kind of bhakti where you have complete sharanagati without having any other expectation, right? So having said that, I want to actually now go back to our pravachan. What is this world? That is what we were actually reading. So we said that the Saguna Brahma created this universe, and this universe is a kalpana of Saguna Brahma in his chitta. It is actually a imagination in the mind of the Saguna Brahma. And what happens is that in that process, the Kshiti Tattva, from the Kshiti Tattva, the life emerges, and the life has unit consciousness, right? So there are infinite number of unit consciousnesses. So why did the Saguna Brahma is actually a Mukta Purusha, right? Saguna Brahma is a Mukta Purusha, but he comes under bondage of Prakriti. He comes under bondage of Prakriti because he wants to liberate each of the unit consciousness. He wants each of the unit consciousness to attain that Nirguna Brahma, right? That is why he comes under the bondage of Prakriti for some time, so that he can liberate each of the unit consciousness, right? So we said that because this whole Srishti is a kalpana in the mind of Saguna Brahma, so all the unit consciousnesses are within the mind of the Saguna Brahma, and the Nirguna Brahma is not in the mind of the Saguna Brahma, right? Nirguna Brahma is beyond the scope of the Saguna Brahma. So how can the unit consciousness, how can the Jivatma attain that Nirguna Brahma? Because the Jivatma are all within the mind of the Saguna Brahma. How can the Jivatma attain the Nirguna Brahma even if the unit consciousness wishes to attain the Nirguna Brahma? So then we said this whole Srishti, the purpose of the Srishti is that so that every Jivatma becomes a Mukta Purusha like the Saguna Brahma. So then if the Jivatma cannot even attain the Nirguna Brahma, then how will the Saguna Brahma's wish be ever fulfilled? Because if the Jivatma can never attain Nirguna Brahma, because Nirguna Brahma is outside the scope of the mind of Saguna Brahma, so then how can the Saguna Brahma help the Jivas to attain the Nirguna Purusha is a question, right? So the answer to that question is that the only course that is available to us, or the only solution for getting liberation for a Jivatma which is inside the mind of the Saguna Brahma is through his own desire and effort, right? So the Jivatma should desire that I want mukti. It should understand that the Jivatma is under bondage and the Jivatma wants mukti. He should have that deep desire. He should have that mumuksutvam. That mumuksutvam is that, oh, I don't want this anymore. I don't want all this everything that the laukika vastu. I'm not getting that happiness from the laukika vastu. I don't want any of this anymore, and I want liberation. I want to get liberated. That deep desire is there, and he's taking efforts in that direction. So the effort to liberate oneself from the influence of Prakriti is called as sadhana. So sadhana is the only way for us to get liberated from the bondage of Prakriti. So first of all, you need to understand that you're in bondage. You should have this deep mumukshutvam, muktumicha, the desire to get liberated, right? First understanding that I'm in bondage and that I want to get rid of that bondage, that understanding when it comes, and when you have the deep desire and you start taking efforts in that direction, right? Then Parama Purusha himself will appear and show you the path. When you have the deep desire, he shows you the path, right? So when you know the path, when you start doing the sadhana, and that is when you attain the Nirguna Purusha. So that is where we ended. So we have a couple more pages in this pravachan. So let's continue with that. Okay. Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to start from here? Saguna Brahma wants to obtain. Are you there, Bhagini? Pushpalata Bhagini?
Sorry. Use the idea. Got to mute it. Okay. Saguna, Namaskaraha. Saguna Brahma wants to obtain the Nirguna state for all unit consciousness or unit Purushas. Yet the object of Saguna Brahma could only be realized if unit consciousness attain Nirguna Brahma by carrying out sadhana. Sadhana means an earnest method or an effort with intense longing. Sadhana for mukti, emancipation, means to make an earnest effort with an intense desire for liberation from the bondage of the qualifying principles of Prakriti. The effort with an intense desire to liberate itself from the bondage of Prakriti will only bring results if unit consciousness is alive to its subservient position and understands its bondage to the qualifying principles of Prakriti. The question of emancipation does not arise for one who does not realize his or her bondage and dependence. Hence, for liberation, it is necessary to be aware that one is in bondage. It is only after one realizes this that one feels the necessary to search for a method for one's liberation. So, this paragraph says that the Saguna Brahma wants to attain the Nirguna state for all the unique consciousness or the unit Purushas which it has manifested. One minute. Which it has manifested. This could be realized only if the unit consciousness attains Nirguna Brahma by by carrying out sadhana. Sadhana means an earnest effort by the unit consciousness to liberate himself from the bondage of the qualifying principles of the Prakriti. So this should be realized by the individual unit consciousness, and thus only after this realization can the Saguna Brahma liberate himself and become and attain the status of Nirguna Brahma. For this, each and every unit consciousness, even the Saguna Brahma, each and every individual consciousness should put earnest effort, and first it should understand it is bonded. Actually, it is no, and it should try to liberate itself from the bondage. So first, to understand, to get emancipated from this bondage, it should understand, the unit consciousness should understand that it has been bonded by some qualifying principle, and then only it can be liberated, and thus the liberation of Saguna Brahma can take place to Nirguna Brahma. So this is the essence of this paragraph.
Okay, Bhagini, nicely said. Thank you. Actually, this paragraph is very, very important, right? So whatever has been expressed over here applies only to human beings, right? Like for instance, a frog or an ant or an insect or any other animal, they do not know that they are in bondage, right? Like trees or plants, they do not know. They're all living beings, right? They have different kinds of living beings. All of them, except human beings, all the other beings, they do not know that they are in bondage, nor they can consciously attempt to release themselves from the bondage and to liberate themselves, right? What they are doing is they're just struggling to survive. They just they have the basic instincts, the ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitunam. That is what they are engrossed in, right? So like all the beings from single-celled organisms to monkeys to other beings, everything, they are all going from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, right? On the Srishti Chakra, they are going from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock through the struggle, through clash and cohesion. They are moving up the chain, and they do not realize that they are in bondage. They do not realize that they're in bondage, nor they can attempt to do a sadhana, right? So what they are doing is, their goal is to ultimately expand their mind. They are engrossed in their day-to-day struggle, and in that process they expand their mind, which leads to evolution and mental growth. And at the time of their death, when their mind is more expanded, then they become qualified to get a more advanced body, right? So that is what we call as the clash and cohesion. So ultimately in that process, through this clash and cohesion, when they reach 10 o'clock, they get the human body, right? So when you get the human body, that is when, right, you can engage in this process of sadhana, right? So everybody is ultimately moving forward without knowingly or unknowingly. They are all moving forward under the guidance of the Prakriti's Sattva Guna, because in the Pratisanchar, the Sattva Guna is predominant, and that Sattva Guna is guiding us, and under the guidance of the Prakriti Sattva Guna, we are all moving forward, right? So ultimately when we reach at 10 o'clock, and when we get this human body, we have this free will. We have the free will, and therefore we have an ability to understand what is our true nature, what is our inherent nature, understand that we have two dharmas, right? So whereas the animals and plants, they have no option but to follow their own dharma, and in their struggle they do so to expand their mind. But the human beings, we have the swatantra ichcha, and therefore we have an option whether to act as animals or to behave like human beings. This is what we have been talking from the very beginning, right? So we have an option for the animal life, to live an animal life, or to live a human life. And most of the people don't understand that they are in bondage, right? That is why they are leading this animal life, that they have two dharmas within them, and they have evolved from animals to become a human being, right? So what happens, they are engrossed in this ahara, vaya, nidra, maitunam, for the most part, those 4 things that they have, which animals also do have. But they don't realize that they have this desire for this infinite, to realize the infinite within them. So what happens is they continue with the animal jivana, life after life. And then what happens, that is what most of the people do, 99% of the people do at any point in time, right? So the question of emancipation does not even arise for those people, because they don't realize they are in bondage, right? And they are so engrossed in the animal life, they don't understand they are in bondage, and they don't even attempt to emancipate themselves. So they don't have any desire to engage in sadhana. So even if you try to teach them sadhana, they will not have any interest, because their mind is engrossed in something else. They rather would go and see a movie or play tennis or do something else. That is what they will do, right? Their mind is not interested in doing sadhana, because they're engrossed in animal life. They haven't realized that they are in bondage, right? So the first step that you need to understand is that you have to understand that you are in bondage. So after great struggle, great difficulty, when our inner eyes are opened, then we come to understand that we are in bondage, and from this world, and we want to liberate ourselves from this bondage, right? So that is when the sadhana, that is when you have this intense desire for getting liberation, then Paramapurusha will show the way. Then we'll start searching for ways of how to liberate ourselves. When you have that intense desire, then automatically it becomes the Paramapurusha's, guru's responsibility to show us the path. Okay, so this is what we actually saw in this paragraph. So going forward, okay, Hamsini Bhagini, do you want to take this next paragraph?
Yes. Both the realization of being in bondage and a methodical effort to obtain liberation are required by unit consciousness for attaining emancipation. Units should be so developed that they become aware of their bondage and are able to find the means to free themselves from this bondage. In Chitti Tattva, units are inanimate when they become being. That inanimate unit, being under the extreme influence of Prakriti, is incapable of even realizing its existence and will never be able to find the means of its emancipation. Sadguna Brahma aims at the liberation of every one of its units, but it is not able to achieve this completely in the case of Jara. So I think that saying that the realization of being in the bondage and trying to free themselves are required in order for the unit consciousness to be freed from it, or to attain emancipation. And sometimes certain unit consciousness become so aware that they're able to, they're so aware of the bondage they have to Prakriti that they're able to find the way that they can free themselves from it. And in Chitti Tattva, since units are inanimate when they come into being, they are under such strong influence of Prakriti.
Can you speak up, Bhagini?
Sorry. They're unable to actually free themselves, because it's such an extreme influence of it. And that's why Saguna Brahma aims to free every one of its unit consciousness from the bondage it has to Prakriti, but it's not attainable in the case of the Jada.
Jada means Prakriti. Jada means Prithvi, the Chitti Tattva. Jada means something which is lying as inanimate. It is not reflecting any consciousness, right? Even though it has consciousness, it's not reflecting any consciousness. Okay, nicely said. So what essentially this paragraph is saying is that we are talking about getting liberated from this from this bondage, right? So the first thing is that you need to understand that you're in bondage. Only when you understand you're in bondage, then you can take efforts to obtain the liberation, right? And when a jivatma understands that it is in bondage, then it will try to find means of liberating itself, right? So that is the first thing, and that is only possible at the human being stage. In the Srishti Chakra, at 10 o'clock, when the human beings emerge, they are the ones who are capable of seeking liberation. They are the ones, they are the ones who have the capacity to realize they are in bondage and to search for means to obtain liberation. So below the human beings, where we have the animals, and from the Kshiti Tattva, different beings emerge, and also the Kshiti Tattva itself, the stone itself, which is inanimate, right, which is having the extreme tamoguna of Prakriti influences the stone, and it is lying there dormant without even realizing its existence. Such a kind of stone can never find emancipation. And from the stone, the beings that emerged in the initial stages of beings, like the single-celled organisms, animals and plants, those can only follow the design of Prakriti. So the animals can only follow the Ahara, Nidra, Bhayam and Maitunam. That is what they can follow, is the food, sleep, Ahara, Nidra, sleep, Bhayam, fear, right, safe location, and then Maitunam is procreation. That is what the animals want. And plants, if you think about it, they want like water, good environment, all those things they want, right? So they actually operate according to the design of Prakriti. They cannot want anything more. They cannot realize they are in bondage. They cannot realize they are in bondage of Prakriti. They cannot realize that they want to get liberated. They don't have the capacity to do sadhana, right? So that is what this paragraph is saying, that this sadhana is only possible for human beings, right? So from 12 o'clock in the Srishti Chakra, from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the Sanchar Dhara, we have the Purusha, the Shuddha Purusha, he is slowly getting into bondage, right, due to the influence of Prakriti, right, and due to the influence of the gunas of the Prakriti on the Purusha, he gets slowly into bondage. In the same way, in the return from the Pratisa, in the return from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock in the Pratisanchar, the Purusha is slowly, phase-wise, he is getting development. Slowly, he is getting released from the bondage, right? It is not happening all of a sudden. It is phase-wise process of liberation. So up to 10 o'clock in the return path of the Pratisanchar, none of the entities on that path have any understanding of their situation. They're just operating pre-designed, right? So they're existing, and they don't even know that they exist. They don't know what to speak of understanding. They don't know that they are existing. They just operate according to the design. So they're not aware that they are in bondage, right? So if they're not aware of their bondage, they are not going to be able to do anything about getting liberated, right? So that is in the case of the extreme jada, the Kshiti Tattva, which is a stone, right? It is just lying dormant, and the question about these entities moving forward when they are not aware of their bondage does not arise, right? So so essentially, in the case of jada, it is just lying there dormant, and right until it progresses from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Only at 10 o'clock it has a swatantra ichha, where it has an option, right, of trying to get liberated, right? You don't get sudden appearance of the stone from the Nirguna Purusha, right? So you don't get sudden reversal from the human beings to the Kshiti Tattva, right, and from the Kshiti Tattva back to the Shuddha Purusha. So everything is going in a systematic way. In order to make a conscious effort to move ahead on the path from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock, right, two things are required. If you have to move from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock, two things are required. One is you have to understand that one is in bondage, and second is a methodical approach to move forward, right? So if one is able to realize they are in bondage, but they don't have a methodical approach, right, then they will just be floating in water. They will not know where to go, right? So both things are critically important. right? That comes into application only at 10 o'clock, where you have the human body and mind. So in the absence of that, right, in the absence of the human body and mind, the rest of the beings are just simply struggling to survive, right? So they're simply surviving to survive, and they gradually move. They're due to this clash and cohesion, their mind gets expanded, and at the time of the death, if they are ready, then they may get an advanced body, right? Slowly they gradually move and reach 10 o'clock, where they will have an option of choosing the Manava Dharma or the Pashu Dharma. If they choose the Manava Dharma, they realize they are in bondage, and if they get the methodical approach, then they can get liberation. So that is the way to the Mukti. Okay, so we'll go to the next paragraph. Chandrasekhar Mohoday.
Thank you, Bhagini. Saguna Brahma, therefore, liberates them from the influence of Prakriti as far as it is possible according to its capacity. This is the reason for humans possessing clearly reflected consciousness as they form the final stage of creation. In humans, the expansion is not complete, and they are unable to get absolute release from the bondage of the qualifying principles of Prakriti. But consciousness in humans is clearly reflected, and they are able to realize their subjugation. This also gives them the capacity to make an effort to perform sadhana for their emancipation. It was with the intention of creating humans capable of performing sadhana that Saguna Brahma came under the influence of Prakriti and brought this creation into being. So humans were created only to do sadhana and attain emancipation. Those who do not perform sadhana for their mukti, emancipation, even though they were created for this purpose, go against the wishes of the Supreme Entity. They defeat the very purpose of the creation of human beings. So in this paragraph, as we've been talking, Saguna Brahma is trying to create, with the influence of Prakriti, that cyclic option to go back, to get all the unit consciousnesses, to get the muktis and become mukti purushas, and thereby Saguna Brahma could get everyone liberated, could also get that liberation to be Nirguna Brahma. So for that purpose, from Jada, Saguna Brahma continues with that influence of Prakriti to create human beings. And the paragraph in the beginning seems to show that even that creation of human beings is incomplete, because the intention is really to get to Mukti Purusha, but couldn't create Mukti Purusha directly, could only create up to human beings with reflected consciousness. And the reflected consciousness, it gives the humans the capability to realize their subjugation or realize their bondage, and to get this urge or intense desire to attain mukti, to attain that emancipation. So that requires two things. One is first to realize that, even for the humans, to realize that they are bonded, they have the capability, if they so wake up to it. And with that capability to realize the bondage, then the next is, even with that realization, you then have to do sadhana to work towards getting rid of the influence of Prakriti, to get to be a Mukti Purusha. So that's the whole purpose of creating humans, to realize the bondage, to do the sadhana, and to reach their mukti. And those they don't achieve that, or going against the wishes of the Supreme Entity, or goes against the wishes of Saguna Brahma. So they defeat the very purpose of why they've been created. So we all humans have been created and put into this Maya for the main and the only purpose of realizing the bondage, doing the sadhana, and reaching that state of Mukta Purusha is what this paragraph is saying.
Yes, Madhu, that was great. Thank you so much. It nicely explained. Yeah, that is the idea over here. This paragraph is a very important paragraph. So the first sentence is expressing about what happens from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock on the Pratisanchar. So if you see, right, the Saguna Brahma is actually liberating every being, because if Saguna Brahma is gradually liberating them from the bondage of Prakriti, that is why they are moving slowly from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, right? So slowly the bondage is anyhow getting released, and at 6 o'clock you realize that you have bondage, you have, even though you got liberated from bondage slowly from the clutches of Prakriti, and you reach 10 o'clock, but even still you are bound by Prakriti, and you have to go all the way from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and that is only possible through sadhana. And Saguna Brahma helps them, right? Meaning from Shriti Tattva to all the way up to 10 o'clock, all those jivas, it liberates them from the influence of Prakriti as far as it's possible according to its capacity. So that is what we're trying to say here, is that there is a phase-wise process, right? Just like you cannot get steam directly from ice, it has to go via water, right? So similarly, there's a stage-wise progression of everything in the Srishti. Everything has a Karya Karana Bhava, right? So this universe is run by Karya Karana Bhava. So this is the cause of that, and that is the cause of that. This is the cause of that. That is how it goes. Everything has a cause and everything has an effect, right? So the Srishti is run on the Karya Karana Bhava, and that is how this entire process moves from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So by struggle, which we call as Sangarsha, by clash and cohesion, by Sangarsha. So by Sangarsha, what happens is that every being has to struggle in this Srishti, and they have to continue and have to slowly progress, right? Even stones have to struggle. By struggle, only the stones the jiva emerge, right? When the pressure of the Prakriti increases, there is a struggle inside the stone, and that is how, if there is a proper environment, the jiva emerges. So there is always a struggle, right? So in order to exist in this world, everything has to struggle. So when we say that, people say that I have to struggle a lot in this life, right? As if it's like a bad thing. Actually, struggle is, you have to welcome the struggle, because without struggle, you cannot progress forward, right? So you have to struggle with everything, and that struggle leads to the forward movement. That struggle is initiated by the work of Saguna Brahma, that is with the Prakriti and Purusha, Brahma and the Purusha and Prakriti, right? So that is for anything. For anything in this universe, we have to struggle. The struggle, the Sattva Guna of Prakriti also helps us to move forward in this struggle, right? That is how the mind gets expanded. The single cell beings did not have an expanded mind. Due to struggle, due to clash and cohesion, the single cell beings slowly advanced, their minds developed, and slowly you reach the plants have a more advanced mind. Slowly you reach the animals, they have more advanced mind. So all of this advancement in the physical body and the mental body, advanced brain, all of this is happening because of the clash and cohesion, right? So when in the next life, they get a more advanced physical body, more advanced brain, more advanced mind. So all of this is happening very, very systematically, right? So within the rules of the system that Paramapurusha has created for the Srishti Chakra, so what happens is that the Sattva Guna of the Prakriti helps us to move forward, gradually expand our mind, gradually develop our mind. And once they get to the human being stage, where they have a clearly reflected consciousness, that is, what do you mean by clearly reflected consciousness, right? So like if on a full moon day we have a puddle of water, right, a puddle of clean water on the street, on that night, you can actually see the clear reflection of the moon in that puddle of water, right? But if the puddle of water is muddy, then you cannot see the clear reflection of the moon. So like that, if the consciousness is in the center and we had 100 mirrors, or if you say there is a flower in the middle, and there is all around it there is 100 mirrors, right? 100 mirrors, and this flower is reflected in all the mirrors, right? All these 100 mirrors are the minds of the jivas, and this flower is the consciousness, and the consciousness is reflected on the mirror, is reflected on all those mirrors, on the 100 mirrors, the 100 jivatmas, right? If those mirrors are clean, right, then this flower is fully reflected. But if the mirrors are all dirty, right, then this flower is not reflected. So the minds of all the jivatma, which is represented by the mirror, if the mind is clean, right, it's shuddham, right, it doesn't have any malas, doesn't have any doshas, it doesn't have the pashas, the bondages, then what happens is that Paramapurusha is clearly reflected on such a mental plate. On the other hand, if the mind is full of malas, right, then the reflection of Paramapurusha is not clear, right? So the human beings, they get a clear reflection, they have the potential to clearly perceive the existence of Paramapurusha in their lives and to experience that Paramapurusha through sadhana, and that is indeed the entire reason for the existence of the Srishti Chakra. That is the reason that human beings struggle and reach to 10 o'clock and start leading a yogic life and start doing sadhana or meditation. They are closing their eyes and they go deep within, and they identify their small I and they merge it with the cosmic I, right? They give up their ego, their small ego, that they have been so dedicated, they have been so trying to glorify it, right, showing in the society how great they are. So instead of doing that, if they surrender that small I to the supreme, to the cosmic I, to the samudra of nirguna purusha in the sadhana, then they will slowly move from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and that is the completion from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and that is what gives the entire reason for the existence of the Srishti Chakra. Without that, everything is useless, right? Without that, this entire Srishti Chakra has no reason for having been created, right? So the reason that this Leela, the reason that this Paramapurusha is doing this Leela, right, this whole Srishti is a Leela of Paramapurusha, the reason he is doing this Leela is that so that in the Srishti Chakra we will be able to return again and merge ourselves with the Supreme at 12 o'clock. That movement is not possible in the absence of one, if you don't have the realization of being in bondage, and two, a methodical effort which is called as sadhana. Sadhana is actually closing your eyes and going deep within and merging your small I with the big I, and there is actually a process for that which we call as yogic sadhana, and that very process is the culmination of human existence, the reason that we took birth, and it is actually the completion of this entire Srishti Chakra. So if people who are actually created to do sadhana with the purpose of attaining liberation do not do that, that means they are actually going against the wishes of the Supreme Entity. What that means is that they are degenerating themselves. The Supreme Entity, that infinite entity, wants us to go from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock and complete that cycle and become one with it, and that is the purpose of creating this Srishti, right? And if we are not doing that, then this whole life is a waste, right? It is not just a relation of student and a teacher, it is a relation of a lover and a beloved, right? Paramapurusha is my beloved, right? So it is a relation of deep love, and so that with great compassion the Supreme Entity is waiting for its jivatmas to come back and become one with it. And if we do not do that, then what happens is the mind is always moving up or moving down, right? If we are not moving up and elevating the mind, then definitely the mind is getting degenerated. So this Supreme Entity, this Paramapurusha, has a way of teaching that if someone degenerates one's mind, then one will have to get a body which is at the same level of the mind at the time of the death. Let's say one person is engaged in doing a lot of harm to the society, then his mind is degenerated to such an extent, right, instead of advancing, the mind is degenerated, then he will get such a life. The next life he will be born either as an animal or as a plant or a stone, right? We never know what kind of body he might get, right? On the other hand, if the mind has degenerated to such an extent, then he can even become a stone, right? He can become a squirrel or a cat or a mouse or whatever, right? So ultimately there is a karya karana bhava for everything, and there is a process. So the srishti is happened because this Saguna Brahma wants us to progress from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That is the purpose of this life. So ultimately, what is the purpose of this life is not anything else, right? We might say, from a Laukika perspective, I want this, I want that. We might say all of those things, but ultimately, what is the goal for which the Supreme Entity has created us is to do sadhana and move from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. We have to elevate our mind every day. We have to elevate our mind by thinking about the Supreme. We have to elevate our mind, make our mind more subtle, right? And the process for making the mind subtle is sadhana. Sadhana is the only way. First you need to understand you're in bondage, and then you need to move forward. Okay, so that is what is talked in this paragraph. So moving forward, Pushpalata Bhagini, you want to take the next one? Are you there, Bhagini?
Bhagini. Consciousness in human is a reflection of the mental plane, needing an adhara or body made of the 5 rudimental factors originating from Saguna Brahma. But the cosmic consciousness is not dependent on any adhara or body. Saguna Brahma, or the qualified supreme entity, has no body like that of a human being. Humans are a thought projection of Saguna Brahma and exist within its mind. Saguna Brahma could also have had a body like a human if it had existed within the mind of another entity and come into being as its thought projection. Saguna Brahma is non-causal. It has no beginning and has no end, and no end. As such, it cannot exist in the mind of another entity and acquire a body. Consciousness in human is only a reflection of cosmic consciousness, while the consciousness of Saguna Brahma is the cosmic consciousness itself. Humans also receive antakarna, introversial psychic force like Saguna Brahma, but a human being's mind is only a unit of the cosmic mind of the Saguna Brahma, just as his or her consciousness is only a multiplicity of the cosmic consciousness. So now this paragraph says that the consciousness in human is a reflection on the mental plate, which needs an adhara or some body made of the 5 rudimental factors originating from the Saguna Brahma. But the cosmic consciousness is not dependent on any adhara or body, and the Saguna Brahma, or the qualified supreme entity, has no body like that of a human being. Human beings, it's said that the human beings are a thought projection of the Saguna Brahma and exist within its mind. Saguna Brahma also could have had a human body, could have had a body like the human beings if it had existed within the mind of some entity, but it is not so. Actually, Saguna Brahma is non-causal, so it has no beginning or end. So it cannot exist in some mind, or it cannot acquire any body. Like consciousness in humans is only a reflection of cosmic consciousness, like how the unique consciousness is manifested from the supreme being or the supreme Purusha. The consciousness in humans is only a reflection of the cosmic consciousness, while the consciousness of the Saguna Brahma itself, it is the cosmic consciousness itself. So humans also receive the antakarna like Saguna Brahma, but a human's mind is only a part of the or the unit of the cosmic mind of the Saguna Brahma, just as his or her consciousness is only a multiplicity of the cosmic consciousness. Like this creation is a multiplicity of the unit consciousness of the Saguna Brahma. The mind of the human beings or the consciousness is a multiplicity of the cosmic consciousness of the Saguna Brahma. So this paragraph emphasizes on that. So it has to get liberation. It first must know that it has been bonded, and then with the help of sadhana, it can get the unit consciousness and the cosmic consciousness should be liberated from the bondage, and thus the Saguna Brahma can be fully liberated itself.
No, Saguna Brahma is liberated, is already a Mukta Purusha. Get liberation through the units.
Unit consciousness can be done only through the sadhana.
Yes, Bhagini.
That's what it is.
Yes. Thank you so much. So here we are actually getting an in-depth view of what is the difference between a Jivatma and the cosmic consciousness, the Jivatma and Paramatma, difference between that, right? So both of them require mind, Antakarana. Antakarana is the mind, the components of the mind. Both of them have a mind. Paramatma also has a mind and Jivatma also has a mind, right? There is a similarity, right? So the Jivatma also has a body, right? The Jivatma resides in a body, but for Saguna Brahma, a body is not required. A Saguna Brahma who is conducting this Leela, right? He doesn't require a body, right? He cannot actually have a body, because beyond Brahma there is nothing else, right? So essentially there is only Prakriti and Purusha, and beyond that there is nothing, and the Srishti is actually happening in the mind of the Saguna Brahma. So where can Saguna Brahma have a body? Because beyond Brahma there is nothing else, right? Everything is Brahma, so beyond that there is nothing else. So how can he have a body outside of that mind, right? So the cosmic mind, so if you look at the human mind, right, the outside of that human mind there is a body which is the home for the mind, whereas the mind of Saguna Brahma, it cannot have a body which is its home, because then where is that body, right? There is no room for having another component to the existence of Saguna Brahma, because beyond Saguna Brahma there is nothing else, right, to house this cosmic mind. So therefore this cosmic mind has no body, right? So we'll also be talking about this in the further also. So about what is the difference between the unit Jivatma and Paramatma. So here in a nutshell what it is saying is that the human beings, we have a three-stariya astitvam, 3 levels of existence: the physical existence, we have mental existence, and the adhyatmic existence. That being that it has a consciousness or a reflection on the mental plate, right, which is the mind, and so human beings, we have the Jivatma, we have a mind, and also we have a body, right? So we have a body which is a Panchabhautika Shariram, right? So without all of this, the human being is not possible. We can't have a human being without all this. There needs to be a Jivatma, mind, and a body. Whereas if you look at the Saguna Brahma has a cosmic mind. He has a cosmic mind, but there is no possibility of a Panchabhautik Shariram. The Saguna Brahma is non-causal, right? It's Anadi Ananta Satta. There is really nothing outside the Saguna Brahma for Saguna Brahma to house a body, right? Because this Panchabhautika Sharira came from Saguna Brahma. It is a part of the Srishti. So Saguna Brahma doesn't have a body. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Yeah, so we can go to the next one. Chandrasekhar Mohan, do you want to take it?
humans can also create in their thought waves in the same way as Saguna Brahma created the universe in its thought waves. We saw earlier that Rama's capacity to create Chandni Chowk in his imagination or thought waves while sitting in Prayag is only momentary and appears real only to him. On the other hand, Saguna Brahma's creation of the universe appears real and is not momentary. This is so because humans, being a part of its creation formed as a thought projection of Saguna Brahma, have a relative existence together with the rest of the creation. The cosmos, or Saguna Brahma, looks upon its thought projection as real, and the unit within naturally has to feel it as real. Humans, therefore, consider the thought projection of the qualified supreme entity and its creation, the universe, to be a reality, while Rama's mind and its projection in imagination is limited, within which Shyama's mind does not work. The imagined objects formed in Rama's mind can be seen and considered real by him only for the time the spell of his imagination lasts. Shyama's mind does not exist within Rama's mind, and hence the farmer does not find these objects real. Had Shyama's mind existed within Rama's mind, the farmer would have seen Chandni Chowk created in the thought waves of the latter's mind, and like Rama would have also considered the imaginary creation of Chandni Chowk to be factual. For instance, we have seen earlier that a person can extend or project his or her mind to bring the minds of others within its scope. At that time, others also see that person's imagination and consider it to be real, like the magician's rope trick. So in this paragraph, it goes a little bit more into the details of how the universe and the thought projections work. The humans could also create thought waves just like Saguna Brahma does. The difference being that in Saguna Brahma's thought waves, every entity in that thought wave, like Rama and Shyama and Chandni Chowk, they're all real because everything is within the realm of Saguna Brahma's thought waves or his creation, like it's in his dream. Whereas we as humans, like Rama, if he creates in his thought waves Chandni Chowk, then that's not shared by Shyama because he doesn't have the same, or he doesn't feel the thought waves of Rama. So to Shyama, what Rama sees in his thought projection is not real to Shyama because he doesn't see it in his thought projection. Whereas the Saguna Brahma sees everything in its thought projection. It sees Rama, Shyama, Chandni Chowk, and anything else. Everything is in that realm of reality. In that Saguna Brahma's thought waves created universe. That the Rama's thought wave just creates in his own dream universe, which is not shared by Shyama. And if it does, then it'll be if Shyama can also see the thought waves of Rama, then it's saying, yep, now since Shyama is in Rama's thought waves, he can share Rama's thought waves, and the two together can share the same realm of reality, which is just for argument's sake. So basically, it's just trying to highlight that what's in that creative reality of Saguna Brahma versus what's that creative reality of each of us, Rama and Shyama, and it's in their extent of the thought projection, and it extends and to illustrate that if you can share that thought projection by bringing in the example of a magician who can control or share his thought projection with everyone in the audience, and if all the audience are sharing the same thought projection as the magician, then they can see the magician's rope trick, because it's again a thought projection of the magician, and he's able to reach out to the people's influence their thought projection and influence them to see the same thought projection. So it extends an example of what Saguna Brahma would be seeing with the entire cosmic creation if a magician can do the thought projection to the audience in the room, having everyone share his thought projection. So it just illustrates and highlights the creation. As this thing of extent of thought projections.
Okay, very nicely said, Mahodaya. That is the idea. Over here, essentially here there are three levels that are being described, right? First, this Saguna Brahma is having a kalpana or an imagination at the level of its chitta, and there everything, this universe, everything that exists in this universe is within that. So that is one level. Then the next level that is this paragraph is talking about is a magician, right? A human being who is able to control the aham tattva chitta of other human beings within a certain radius. And so those human beings whose chitta is controlled by that magician, they see what he sees, and for the time, whatever time he creates, they also see whatever he shows. And then the lowest level is that of a standard human being, and they can create whatever they like in their mind, which nobody else can see except for them, right? It is only very temporary, and it only lasts as long as the imagination lasts. So this is all a way of expressing that ultimately, right? Although the thought projection of Saguna Brahma is a thought projection, but it has a unique reality value which cannot be ignored, right? So Paramapurusha, the Saguna Brahma, considered this as real, right? And therefore it appears real for us as well, for human beings, and that cannot be ignored, which has to be acknowledged, right? And any proper philosophy has to deal with that reality value, right? So in other words, we cannot say this Jagat is mithya, right? So if somebody is starving, and they need to be taken care of, and they need to be addressed, because they are also part of the cosmic dream, right? So the ultimate ramification is that we have a world in front of us, and that cannot be treated as mithya, right? And those who are suffering are indeed suffering, and they are a part of this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? Wherever they may be living in India or Africa or USA or Russia or wherever, right? So we are all part of the same, we have originated from the same source, right? Anywhere they may be located, anywhere, they are all our brothers and sisters. So it is a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It is a family. This whole world is a family, and it is our duty to attend to their needs, to help them, right? So that we can create a global family, and nobody is outside this dream, outside this cosmic kalpana, right? So we have to do our duty in the moment from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and ultimately our effort is to move from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and in this cosmic dream, and we have to acknowledge its importance. And our yogic philosophy is a philosophy of Advaita, Dvaita, and again Advaita. So Dvaita. So Advaita, Dvaita, and Advaita. So starting from 1, right? For starting from 1 at 12 o'clock we were 1, then moving to 2, becoming many, and then returning to that 1, right? So this is a vital importance, because we have a human body, we live in this world, right? So the entire the Srishti, entire thing that we are seeing in front of us, right? So we cannot ignore that, right? This Paramapurusha has given us this unique universe in which we reside and we practice our yogic life, right? So that we can move our body and we can move our mind and Atma from towards 12 o'clock, right? So this Jagat has to be given proper consideration. So that is why we say Atma Moksha and Jagat Hit, right? We have to strive for Atma Moksha. We have to understand that we are in bondage and put in efforts for attaining that Atma Moksha. And then next is we should also do Jagat Hit. We cannot ignore the world. Only when we do the Jagat Hit, the mental plate gets pure and pure, right? If you're always only thinking about yourself, right, then it is a selfish endeavor. So there will not be any agragati. But when you're thinking about the world, when you're thinking about helping others, and when you're helping others, what happens is it removes the malas from your mind. It makes your mind more and more suddha. And only a sadhaka can do that selfless service, right? So you have to do selfless service without expecting anything in return. When you do that kind of a service, then what happens is that in return, Paramapurusha takes away the malas from your mind. He makes your mental plate more and more and more shuddha. When the mental plate becomes shuddha, then the reflection of Paramapurusha is very, very clear, right? So very, very clear. Then the agragati is very, very clear, very smooth. Then attaining 12 o'clock will be rather smooth. That is what this paragraph is talking about, the difference between the cosmic consciousness and the unit consciousness, Paramatma, Jivatma. Okay. So we will actually stop over here. We have just one more paragraph. We'll take it up in the next class. Okay. And then we'll also start a new pravachan in the next class. So any questions here? Okay. So we'll conclude the session over here. Thank you. Dhanyavadaha. Namaskaraha.
Namaskaraha.